married or in a committed relationship, looking for real advice on having love and enriching your relationship? You are in the right place. Welcome to The Couples Expert with Stuart Fensterheim.
Hi there, it's Stuart Fensterheim, the Couples Expert, just sitting in my office after seeing some clients today and deciding that I'm going to do this podcast on premarital counseling. I have seen so many people recently who have come in saying that they've been married for a period of time and learned some things about their partner recently that if they had known prior to getting married, they may have made a different decision. When you start thinking about that, how sad is that? Two people who have gotten together now after years of marriage, finally learning some things about their partners that they feel get in the way of them feeling close and connected. So what I've thought about is that I need to do something having to do with premarital counseling, the concept of marriage, and how do you prevent something like that happening in your life? Because when we make a commitment to our partners, we should feel very secure that the person that we have in our life is truly the person we want to spend the rest of our life with. I counsel couples quite often in crisis, but I'm not just a marriage counselor. I'm also a premarital counselor, which means I talk to people that want to make this most important joint decision, getting married, and so often they are scared and in a very anxious place that is this person the right person for me? And I really do believe that it is such a tragedy, at least in the United States, if not around the world, that people who get married don't have to undergo any type of class or program that will allow you two as a couple to be really assured that this person is the person that you want to spend your life with. You know, the question comes up a lot in discussions about whether marriage is that natural progression to a relationship. And truthfully, we can be with someone for a long time and just really decide that marriage isn't the next step, that the two of you are in this relationship, you're serious, there's loving, but does marriage have to be that end goal? I personally, as a marriage counselor and someone who is married as well, believe that a marital union is the best relationship you'll ever have. But in order for that to occur, you have to do some of the right things. The steps that you need to take, the study that you need to do is to assure yourself and your partner that the two of you have dealt with all the issues that might come up so that when you do finally get to a place where you say, I do, it isn't I hope I do, it's I know I do. And that's really what is the purpose of this podcast, that we can talk about some of the areas that you have to think about in order to really make sure that when you go to that altar, it's an I do. This deeper commitment of a marriage is one that should only take place when the two of you truly believe that you are in a loving relationship and that the next step is being married, because neither one of you can't imagine your life without the two of you together. So what I would like to do in this podcast is really talk about the different topics that need to be addressed, that the two of you go through a step-by-step evaluation of your relationship and make sure that you are in a relationship that has both of you feeling confident that anything that may come up will be okay. One of the statistics that came up for me when I was really looking at things was that the percentage of relationship that turn to marriage is down recently. People are marrying later, having families later, or maybe not even at all. There's not the same social pressure to settle down and buy a home, have a family, and all the benchmarks that were sought after when I was growing up. That's just what you did. You found a person, you fell in love, and you got married. The high divorce rates of my parents and my generation speak to that in cards. You need to make sure that you're marrying the right person. You might not think that a mere piece of paper or marriage license is going to change anything between you and your partner. I absolutely will tell you it does, and I'll tell you why. Marriage is more than a license. It's a deeper commitment. It's a vow, a promise, and quite frankly, a contract that you're willing to legally enter into it saying, we are joined. There are many other rituals and rites that you perform with your partner that indicate that commitment, but marriage is absolutely an institution, and it's been taken very lightly. And that's why I am promoting this concept of having a license, a required class that every single couple must go through before they can get a marriage license. Think of it. We have to do that with cars. We have to take a test. We don't just get into a car and it's okay to drive. If we're going to require people to do that, we should require people to get a marriage license. Just think of this concept. And this actually happened to me. I was married, divorced, and then was about to get remarried. When the day of my marriage, I had someone at the wedding come up to me. And what they said to me was, congratulations, don't worry. If it doesn't work out, you can always get another divorce. How horrible is that? How absolutely awful that someone felt that they needed to tell me that to reassure me that we don't look at this institution as a permanent step. Now, I understand why that happens because we've all been through different situations, different people. As age goes on, as you marry later, you're aware of marriages that don't work. We may have had family members. But if we go into this institution with the concept that if it doesn't work, we can always just get out of it, I don't think that's the way you should get into a marriage. When I look at some of things that are out there, there's this concept of a covenant marriage. I actually don't think it's a bad idea. A covenant marriage makes sure that it is much harder to get a divorce than just saying irreconcilable differences and boom, you don't have to be there. It should be incredibly difficult to tear a family apart in the way that divorce does. So as I'm talking about this concept of premarital counseling, I want you to understand something. Once you make this commitment, it should be a commitment for the rest of your life, and nothing should get in the way of that commitment, that promise you make to each other, that promise you made to your family, that the two of you are in this together, come hell or high water, and that you're going to make this work or make it the best thing out there. I don't see any reason that any couple needs to get a divorce. The only times that it is something that I sort of back away from that concept of is that if we're dealing with substance abuse or domestic violence. Other than those two issues, there's nothing that should stop both of you creating or building a relationship that is a significant one where you feel like your partner has your back. And if you don't have that, there are many people out there like myself who can help you get there. But let's talk about what are some of the things and areas that you should be looking at when you're trying to decide, have we as a couple dealt with the issues that are necessary for having this permanent union? Before we talk about that, I want to allow a word from our sponsors. The Couples Expert is sponsored by the Couples Expert Premarital Program, 12 Conversations, a Lifetime of Love. We don't know what we don't know. Marriage is not always easy. You may not be adequately prepared for marriage or a long-term relationship. Do you know what conversations you should be having? Our premarital course gives you 12 weeks of training and insight from the couples expert on how to talk about everything from money to family planning. Sign up on the Couples Expert website and build your foundation for wedding bliss with 12 conversations for a lifetime of love. This program that sponsors this podcast goes into much more detail than I will here, and I highly recommend it. I spent a lot of time and research on finding exactly the things that we need to talk about. But for the sake of this podcast, what I'd like to offer you is a glimpse of some of the areas that are absolutely essential to explore before you walk down the aisle. If you have any difficulty discussing any of these issues, you might want to consider either the online course that I'm doing or seeking out a marriage counselor, someone who specializes in an attachment-based model to help the two of you begin to have the conversations that are needed to start your marriage off on the right foot as you build your relationship. We all want a relationship that lasts a lifetime. And so often what ends up happening is we get involved in a relationship, and before you know it, there are areas in the relationship that don't always surface in the first couple of years. That these are things that come up a year into the marriage, 2 years into marriage, sometimes even 10 years into the marriage. And if you haven't addressed or understand that what you need to do is be preventative to talk about these topics before you walk down that aisle, then you can really end up with a lot of heartache. I think most people do end up talking about is what does that marriage commitment mean to each of you? In other words, why did you decide to get married to one another? I think we all have known couples who, when things have been difficult for them, what ends up happening, I hear this more with the guys than with the ladies. Guys really are insecure. We really are. We need to know, why do you love us? And I think both people need that. I think the next topic that you really have to talk about are your lifelong goals. If we're going to be in a relationship for the rest of our lives, there are going to be changes that occur. And what do you individually hope will be different? And what are your lifelong goals? And I think the most important piece here is talking about your personal goals, not just your goals as a couple, because those individual goals are the things that you're going to want support from your partner about. And along with that is really the expectations that we all have. What do you expect from your partner? And I think in terms of emotional support, which we were talking about a second ago, what does your partner need to do to have you feel supported by them? The next topic that you would probably want to cover will be sort of the living arrangements. What that means is what happens when kids arrive. And I think some of you who've been following me on Facebook or my social media through Twitter, and I've been doing a lot of Facebook Lives, know that part of what has happened for me and my family is that we lost our therapy dog, Ollie. Ollie was a real member of our family. And we now, exciting news is that we've adopted a new one, whose name is Jax, by the way, Jax. And you'll probably be hearing me talk about Jax, both in my podcast and some of the live stream stuff that I'm doing. And I'm training him to be a therapy dog. And what this brings up for me is the discussion that a lot of people don't have is what place do pets have in your life? When you're getting married to your partner, do the two of you have the same image of the animals that are going to be part of your family? And I don't know about you, but for me, a family member is a pet. It's not just a dog or a cat or a bird or any animal that you may bring in. They become part of your family. When we lost Ollie, which was my therapy dog, it was like losing a child. The grief was tremendous. And my wife and I have just sort of, I'm not equating it with the death of a child, and I hope none of you send me an email saying, how do you make that comparison? Because I'm not. The point I'm trying to make is our dog is a member of our family. and losing it means it's like one of our arms got cut off. And having a new dog come into our life is very significant. If my wife was not a dog person, she liked cats, that would be a real issue for us. But I knew that she was a dog person because when I met her, she had a dog, and so did I. And we brought the dog together. We had a blended dog family. So often couples don't talk about this. I do have a couple, by the way, that this issue has been a major fight for them. And getting a puppy as opposed to an older dog is a tremendous conflict and a tremendous trigger. If they had not talked about that dogs will be part of their life, this could have torn them apart, including, I believe, possibly led to a divorce. So you have to talk about what role animals will play in your life and how do you look at your animals. The next topic that I think we need to, and most people aren't going to be surprised by this one, is you have to talk about money. What role money have? What about savings, retirement, life insurance, all those kinds of things. The next one that I think is a very common one, but I think we have to mention it, is what role do parents and in-laws play in your life? As some of you know, my wife and I go to my in-laws every Sunday. That's something, a commitment that she has made to herself and to her family. And my coming into this relationship, I knew that would be my Sundays, that we would be Sunday afternoon going over to her parents. And she does this meal on wheels for them. She brings them a couple of cooked meals and we have dinner with them. They are a central part of our life together. And we talk about them and we worry about it. And when we take vacations, how long we go for is dependent on that. So you have to talk about what role does extended family play in your life. The one that I think is also most people are fine and know to talk about this is areas of religion. If you are in an interfaith marriage, how are you going to work that out? If you're in the same faith marriage, do you practice in similar ways? The dialogue should occur so that there is no surprise. How are we going to raise the kids? The role of other people and friends, that needs to be discussed as well. Are you interested in an open marriage? Is that going to be something where it's okay to have other sexual partners? Those are topics that do need to be talked about. The other topic that we need to talk about that obviously goes along with this is your sex life. There needs to be a lot of conversation regarding frequency, quality, the types of things that you enjoy. And it goes without saying, but for many couples, this is a topic that can be a difficult one. And we also need to talk about what makes sex stimulating and what makes it erotic. And I think last but not least, we have to mention our communication styles. How do we deal with when there's heated conflicts? Are you someone that needs space? Are you someone that needs to have resolution rather quickly? What do we do when we're angry with each other? How do we handle these things? Do we have a rule in the home that says we never go to bed mad at each other, so we have to resolve it? All of these things are things that need to be discussed, and these are the things that we break down in lots of detail with the online course that we're doing. So if you're interested in that course, check it out. But the most important thing is really having conversations. And there are plenty of fun little tests that you can take online about your premarital. One of the recommendations that I highly have for all of you is to go online and Google premarital questions to talk about before marriage and be able to have that conversation. To really understand what I'm saying here is that these are topics of discussion. These are things that will take compromise, negotiation, trying to work through. Your life today with your partner should be loving, kind, and meeting each other's needs as they arise. Don't forget that as time goes on, as you get older, your needs change. The most important thing is keeping each other in the loop, appreciating what a wonderful person that you're fortunate enough to be with and all the things that they do to make your life happy and better. That you guys need to respect each other as people, as individuals, and the amazing partner that you have been fortunate to find. Remember that you want to love them as they are and not try to change them to be something different, because that doesn't feel good to either one of you. Encourage each other every day. Every challenge and every hurdle is one that you can be together. So any of the topics that I've mentioned here, if there are some major differences with that, don't let it throw you. Come at it in a loving, caring way and saying, we just need to talk this out. And supporting each other through the good times and bad times. That's the most important thing. That's the most important message you want to send to your partner, is that we're in this together. We can accomplish anything we want because our love will take us there. And that the choice that we've made to have each other in our life is the best choice we've ever made in our entire life. I want to really thank you for coming and joining me today. If you have any questions or want to send me some suggestions for topics for a podcast or talk about anything that I've covered here today, please email me at podcast@thecouplesexperts.com. And if you decide to marry this person that you're with, and I hope you do, you will have a great foundation with all the concepts that are going on, what we're talking about here on the podcast. Sign up if you can for my Stuart's Daily Notes. It's a free subscription where you'll get a tip a day, and you can subscribe on the website, which is www.thecouplesexperts.com. And every single thing that you do every single day to make your marriage and your relationship the best it can be will allow all of these issues. There may be things that have to be negotiated to just be a blip, because the most important thing is the love that you have for one another. Take care, stay connected, and we'll talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. This episode has ended, but your journey continues. Head over to www.thecouplesexperts.com to access all the links and resources mentioned in this episode, as well as bonus content exclusive to podcast listeners. Enjoyed this episode? Why not hit subscribe now and never miss an episode?